You know, my favorite thing from last year on Brad Carroll's Game Day was this thing called Loser Island, with Anthony over here being a permanent member of that space. But Anthony, you're killing me, man. We can't have Loser Island anymore because you keep on winning. Why?
I'm okay with that. 5-2 last week in first place all by myself. You and the evil one are tied for second place, or as I like to call it, last place. So I hope you guys are climbing up the tree, picking some coconuts, and having some nice time on Loser Island.
Well, yeah, I guess we are part of Loser Island, but you know, it just doesn't have the same amount of fun as if your mullet was there.
That's because I make every place fun. Even if I'm losing, I'm having fun, and if I'm winning, I'm having more fun.
Unfortunately, you're having a little more fun than we are. You are in first place. I can't believe it. You went 5-2. You're 12-2 in your last 2 weeks. I don't even know what to say about that.
Just having a good streak right now. I guess I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, Jesus. We can only hope. This is Brad Carroll's Game. Kick off this week's show with the #1 team in the nation. LSU goes into Ole Miss. This is going to be the final home game for head coach Houston Nutt over at Ole Miss. I don't think it matters in this one. LSU, way better than Ole Miss.
LSU is far superior team than Ole Miss. Ole Miss has just been so dreadful this year, which is why Nutt will not be the coach next year. They've lost 5 in a row. They lost to Louisiana Tech last time out, and it wasn't even that close, you know. You look at games and you try to find reasons for a team, an underdog team, to stay in it, to pull an upset. I see no reason whatsoever.
They lost that game to Louisiana Tech on homecoming of all days. I don't know how that happens. Houston Nutt, like you said, gone. He deserves to be gone. Ole Miss doesn't really stand a chance in this one. 29-point spread kind of changes things a little bit. LSU, they had a little bump in the road against Western Kentucky last week. Led just 14-7 at the half before blowing them out in the second half. Will they have any kind of slow start in this one?
Maybe, but I don't think there's going to be any problems here. Big lines always scare you, but I really think they're that many points better than Ole Miss. They'll win this one 40-7.
Yeah, like I said, LSU's minus 29 in this game. They win it 49-10. Staying in the SEC for our next matchup, Mississippi State goes into #6 Arkansas. Arkansas might be looking ahead to their game against LSU next week. If they do that, they could be in trouble here against a pretty good Mississippi State team. Arkansas still, they've lost only one game, a blowout defeat at the hands of Alabama. They've won the rest of their games. They're in position to possibly make a run in an SEC title game.
Absolutely. They got LSU next week, and obviously if they win this week and win next week, depending on the tiebreakers with LSU and perhaps Alabama, they could be in the SEC championship game. And if they win the SEC championship and they are a one-loss team with a win over LSU, maybe they fit into the national championship picture somewhere, which is pretty wide open right now. But obviously, they can't be thinking about that. Mississippi State was ranked way back at the beginning of the season. They've obviously really struggled this year. They're 1-5 in the SEC. They haven't been able to hold up their end of the bargain offensively, and I don't think they'll be able to keep up with Arkansas, which obviously can score points.
Yeah, that's obviously the big point here. Arkansas can score at will. Mississippi State struggled on offense. It's going to be a tale of two things. Can Arkansas beat that defense? What do you think?
I think Arkansas will stay focused, and they'll win this game 38-20.
Yeah, Arkansas, they're minus 13 in this game. They win it 38-21. Next up, #7, Clemson goes into North Carolina State. Clemson has won the last 7 meetings between these two schools. North Carolina State looking to become bowl eligible with 2 wins in their final 2 games. Tough sledding against Clemson.
Yeah, North Carolina State has really struggled. They lost to a pretty bad Boston College team last week. Meanwhile, Clemson, they've been having a great year, but they don't really have much to play for right now. They've already clinched a spot in the ACC championship game. This is where I think head coach Dabo Swinney needs to come in and remind his players that they're a one-loss team. They're #7 in the BCS standings. Depending on what happens these last couple weeks, if chaos breaks out, maybe Clemson gets back into the BCS national championship picture. Unlikely, but I think a good motivational tool for his players.
Absolutely, and it's entirely possible if we learned anything from recent years in the BCS. Chaos can ensue, will most likely ensue. They're going to need a lot to happen. They are one of those one-loss teams, but there's a lot of them. It's going to take a lot of breaks to get Clemson in there. Still have a chance, though, and against North Carolina State, their offense is going to be tough to stop.
Yeah, Clemson's going to have to just stay focused, and I think they will. They'll take care of business 33-20.
Yeah, Clemson minus 7.5 in this game. They win it 35-24. #4, Oregon, for the second straight week, is going to take its spot. National television, prime time, this week against Southern Cal. This one's going to be huge. Oregon's coming off a huge win over Stanford. One I predicted, I might add. Anthony Della, Calce, not so much. Oregon, this one's going to be a good one for them.
Yeah, obviously, as you mentioned, they made a big statement last week.
Hey, Anthony. 12-2 over the last 2 weeks, huh? That's impressive. Well, impressive until you realize that you needed that run to push your career winning percentage over 500. So go ahead and pop the champagne with celebrations being mediocre. And Brad, you went 5-2 last week. Good job. But again, it wasn't enough for you to get out of last place. You know, I'm hearing you're starting to get superstitious. Word is you were rubbing your belly like a Buddha in hopes it would get you out of last place. I guess only time will tell if that strategy works. On to my picks. Nebraska, plus 3.5. Arkansas, minus 13. Clemson, minus 7.5. Ohio State, minus 7. LSU, minus 29. Oklahoma, minus 15. And my game of the week, USC travels to take on Oregon. This game is a tough one to call. USC has looked very impressive of late and has a great quarterback in Matt Barkley. But the Ducks showed last week against Stanford when they play at a high level, they're extremely hard to beat. USC keeps it close, but the Ducks win 48-35.
Well, he's got a good point about your record finally getting over 500. What's this Buddha stuff? What's going on there?
I don't know. I got to give the evil one credit for having, a good sense of humor here, cracking some jokes. It's rare that he makes a joke that's funny, but he actually made one this week.
I don't know if I'm going to have to continue this or go in the back and cry a little bit. The evil one, you're a mean dude. Anyway, Anthony, this one's a big matchup, prime time.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that USC has the postseason ban. They're not eligible to be in the Pac-12 championship game or a bowl game. Obviously, it's their own fault for breaking rules. But this still is a big game. He mentioned Matt Barkley. I think Matt Barkley is going to have a big game if USC is going to stay in this game because we know Oregon can score points. Incidentally, USC has one of the better rush defenses around, but I don't know if they're going to be able to really bottle up Darren Thomas, who really had a great game last week.
Yeah, you mentioned USC is one of the best run defenses. Oregon, on the other hand, has one of the best offenses running the ball. They're fifth in the nation. That's going to be tough to stop for USC. USC, very good team. Underrated, I think. I think they should be in the top 25. They faced a lot of good teams. Didn't fare so well in those games. Oregon, they're one of those one-loss teams that can get back in the national title hunt, especially with a victory here. It's always a question, them or Alabama, if LSU or Oklahoma State stumbles, who takes that spot? After the win against Stanford, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Obviously, Oregon's got to win this game, take care of business before they can worry about that. But USC, I think they'll find a way to keep it close. Oregon, the state of Oregon, hasn't been very kind to them. They've lost 5 in a row. I think that runs to 6 in a row, 42-30, Ducks.
Yeah, Oregon's minus 14.5 in this game. I got them winning it, 45-28. Switching over to the Big 12, number 5 Oklahoma goes into number 22 Baylor. Oklahoma, yet another one of those one-loss teams that's hoping if everything goes right, they can find themselves back in the BCS title picture. Of course, they did lose to Texas Tech, which looks very, very, very embarrassing right now. Baylor, they have a pretty good offense. Oklahoma, I would say, better.
Yeah, absolutely. Oklahoma's offense has been on a roll since that disappointing loss to Texas Tech. Landry Jones has been playing well. Meanwhile, Baylor, you mentioned they have a great offense as well, led by Robert Griffin III. Those of you who watch the show know I love that quarterback, love to watch him play. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to help the Bears to any big wins over the better teams in the Big 12. Baylor's lost to Kansas State, they've lost to Oklahoma State, and they've lost to Texas A&M. I think it's the same story here. Baylor's a good team, but they just don't measure up to the Oklahomas.
On top of that, Baylor's never beaten Oklahoma. Got to take that into account. Oklahoma, since they lost to Tech, they've beaten Kansas State, Texas A&M big. They know what's ahead of them. They want to get it. That could help them here.
Yeah, absolutely, but Oklahoma takes care of business, 45-24.
Yeah, Oklahoma, they're minus 15 in this one. They win it, 44-28.
How about those Ducks going into Stanford and absolutely thrashing the Cardinal? They've been the team that's been forgotten since losing to LSU in Week 1, but now they're right back in the national championship picture. We talked about it before. Watch out for the Ducks, because they're gunning for the national title.
I'm going to put 2 teams in the doghouse this week. First, Nebraska, you led 17-0 in the third quarter against Penn State until you allowed that team, the worst offense that I've ever seen, to score 2 touchdowns to fail to get me the cover. You're in the doghouse. Second, Boise State, you had a chance to make a jump in the national title picture, yet you lost to TCU, a TCU team that's nowhere near what they used to be. And you did it by missing another field goal for the second straight year. I don't know what's going over there, Boise State, but you ruined your opportunity. You're in the doghouse. over in the Big Ten. Number 21 Penn State goes into Ohio State. Last year, this game featured the two winningest active head coaches in the land. This year, wow, how things have changed.
Yeah, two teams embroiled in controversy. Obviously, completely different types of controversy. It was Ohio State with all of their problems violating NCAA rules at the beginning of the season. Now it's Penn State with a whole nother story, the story that just keeps on going. And you have to wonder, Penn State last week had a chance to say, we want to win one for Joe Paterno, we want to win one for our seniors in our final home game, the home crowd behind them. That's not the case this week. Are they spent? Are they going to have any gas left in the tank to rally? And I hate to say this, but I'm sure there's going to be some fans in the stands who are going to say some unkind things, a few nasty cheers. You know, college kids aren't always the most welcoming of people when they welcome in an opposing team. So you got to wonder if Penn State's going to be able to rally, even though they're still playing for a spot in the Big Ten championship game.
Absolutely. You know, you look at what Ohio State went through in the beginning of the season. Seems kind of lame now when you consider what's going on at Penn State. Completely different levels of controversy and scandal. So Penn State, they did struggle last week, but it was a typical Big Ten game, low scoring. Looks like this one's going to be the same way.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game as well. I like Ohio State in this game, but I got to say, the way they struggled against Purdue last week gave me pause. They'll win, but they'll win a close one, 20-14.
Yeah, Ohio State -7 in this game. Me and Anthony are on the same page. 20-14. Finally, here on Game Day, a big matchup in the Big Ten. Number 16 Nebraska goes into number 18 Michigan. This game still has major title implications for the Legends division in the Big Ten. Nebraska needs to win this game and next week against Michigan State. Michigan needs to win this game and get a lot of help from Michigan State. Losing to Indiana, that's one's going to be a tough one. Still, this is a great matchup between two historic programs.
Yeah, that's the fun part about Nebraska joining the Big Ten. You get these games between teams that kind of traditional powers in college football. Obviously, there are different styles than they used to. These teams used to play a lot of smash mouth football. Now you've got the spread. Taylor Martinez, a running quarterback, and Denard Robinson, a running quarterback. Whoever plays better in that matchup could go a long way in determining this game. The thing that worries me about Michigan is they haven't stacked up in their best games of the season. They lost to Michigan State. They lost at Iowa. Their best win is over Notre Dame. That doesn't bode well to me going against the Nebraska team that I think is just a better team right now.
Yeah, Michigan's offense struggles against great defenses, and there's a lot of them in the Big Ten. A lot of low-scoring affairs, which doesn't bode well for Michigan. They're going to have that same battle here against Nebraska. Can Denard Robinson get outside? Can he make some big runs against that Nebraska defense? It's going to be tough. Who wins the game?
Yeah, you mentioned Robinson. We talked about Robinson and Martinez. I think Martinez will play a little bit better, and that's why Nebraska wins 26-23.
Well, guess what, Anthony? You're wrong as usual. Michigan -3.5 in this game. They win it 27-24. That's going to wrap up this edition of Brad Carroll's Game Day. For Anthony Della, Calce over here. For the evil one, Craig Carroll. For Joe Fortunato behind the camera, I'm Brad Carroll. We'll see you next week.